Hi everyone, this is Mike again, and we're going to take a look at some advanced techniques using layers with these video clips coming up. And we're going to take a look at three concepts that I use all the time. One are layer mask, another one is a clipping mask, and then we're also going to take a look at adjustment layers. I love these three concepts and layers because of what they are. They're basically non-destructive ways to correct or to have an effect on your image. And I say they're non-destructive because you can always get back to the your original layer. So if you use, like, for example, an adjustment layer and you want to go in and adjust for brightness and contrast, you can apply an adjustment layer, and the adjustment is on the layer right above the layer that you're affecting. And this makes an excellent tool when it comes to correcting parts of your image. And so we're going to take a look at the three of these concepts and see what we can do with this, and we'll go from there. And I'll give you some more definitions of both or all three concepts as we go. Right now I have an image already open up. And what I want to do is I want to add in some guides, and to do so I'm going to go up to View in my menu system. I'm going to turn on the rulers, and the guides itself, all you do, just like any type of desktop publishing program, I'm going to bring my mouse on the ruler. I'm going to drag straight down. I'm going to take this to the 2.5 mark so it divides it in half. I'm going to go to the vertical ruler and drag straight across and put it right there at the 4-inch, and that should intersect right in the middle, so I know where the middle is in this image. And let me open up Tulips image. Now what I want to do is I'm going to move this Tulips image over into the snow scene. So I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to do it once and I want to undo it because I want to show you a shortcut that works well when you're bringing images in from another image. So what I want to do is I'm just going to drag it in, and then I'm going to release. Now as you see here, when you drag it in from another image, it releases where you place your mouse. I have a little extra space over here, and I can move the image if I want to because it is on a separate layer. Now this time I'm going to undo it, but if you want to make sure the image is exactly in the center, placed in the center, then what you want to do is, with the move tool, hold down your shift key as you drag. When you hold down the shift key and when you release your mouse first, it puts the image, no matter what, in the center. And in this case, the tulips itself is the same size as the snow scene. Now anytime you bring an image over from another image, it actually places it on a layer. And we look at our layers palette, we can see that it came over as layer 1. So what I'm going to do, since I don't like having layers named by default, I'm going to go ahead and name this as Tulips by double clicking on the layer 1 text. I'm going to type in Tulips and press my enter key. Now we're going to look at the first part of working with layer mask. And basically what a layer mask is, I use it a lot for creating collages, but by adding a layer mask to a layer, you can control exactly where the layer is transparent and where it's opaque. You can obscure an entire layer or layer set, or just a selected part. So you can do it to the whole layer or just an individual part of that layer. After you apply the layer mask, you can also go back and edit it if you need to. You can also subtract and add to that mask by using your paintbrush or any of your painting tools, which is an important part. You'll find that when we work and add this, it will add what we call as a mask, and that mask is in basically what we call as a grayscale mode. But basically, layer mask is really very simple to understand. It takes the layer that you're on, in this case the tulips layer, and you're going to tell it to hide or reveal part of that layer. You're either going to tell it to hide or reveal part of that layer. And when you hide part of it, you're not deleting, you're not erasing, you're just hiding it. So if you need to get back and your boss says to you, hey, I like that top portion, can you give that to me again? If you deleted it, you can't. So with a layer mask, it's non-destructive. You can always get back to the original. So with this layer mask, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select an area at the very bottom left hand corner. Since it's nice perfect, I'm going to go in and just use my rectangle marquee to select the bottom left quadrant. Now I'm going to go up and use the layer menu. I'm going to come down to layer mask. I have a couple other options here. I can tell it to reveal all, hide all, but since I made a selection, I'm going to use the last two here, and I'm going to do reveal selection. When I do this, look what happens to the other three quadrants. Those three quadrants are hidden. They're hidden. Now if we take a look at this, let's look at our layers palette. It added a mask. That mask is linked to the graphic, but it's not on the graphic itself. So you can see the thumbnail of the graphic right here, and you can see the whole tulips are still there. The mask itself, you can see that there's some white and there's black. Well, anytime you have white on a mask, white means that you are revealing what's on a layer. If you have black, that means you're hiding that area that's on that layer. For example, if I take my paintbrush here, and let's make this a little larger size so we can really see it, and I'm going to paint in black right here in the middle of the tulips. What I'm doing is I'm applying a mask in that area, and I'm hiding where I'm painting. If I switch to white and paint up here in the top right and bottom left, or bottom right, you'll see that I'm revealing parts of that layer. And if you look at the mask, you can see where the black and white is placed. You can also paint with a gradient if you wanted to. Gradient gives you more of a gradual transition. So if I take my gradient tool, and I'm just going to make sure I'm using white to black or black to white, doesn't matter which. When you're on a mask, you can only use black or white or gray. Can't use any colors. And in this case, I'm just going to drag from one corner to another. And you can see that there's a nice transition. And anywhere there's gray, gray is going to give us a little more of a transparency. You're going to see through. So I can actually work with this and make it a smaller gradient. So it looks like you have one side of the tulips and there's a nice little blend, and it goes into the snow scene. Notice I can take any side and make any adjustments I want. And notice how I'm affecting the mask. Now I will warn you, be careful, because some people when they come back and they select that layer, they click accidentally on the image. If you're going to edit the mask, you have to have the mask selected. You can see there's a little border around the tulip's thumbnail. And if I start taking my paintbrush and paint, I'm actually painting on the actual image. And you can see it come up on the thumbnail. So I'm going to do an undo. I have to be on the mask, and then I can start painting. That's the key. So in this case, the mask reveals and hides what's on a layer. So let me get you back here at the beginning where I had, and let me just take this rectangle tool, select this bottom corner again. I'm going to fill this area down here in with white. I'm just going to do edit fill. I'm going to fill it with white. See how that's a painting tool. Any painting tools you can add to your mask. I'm going to do a select inverse, and I'm going to fill that with black. So I hide it. Then I'm going to deselect. Again, look at my mask. It's hidden. So what I've done here is I basically took my layer mask to the tulips so I can hide part of it. To make this a little more interesting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on a couple of these tulips here. And I'm going to take my paintbrush, a little bit too big, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in white. I want to add the tops of these tulips. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a smaller brush. I'm going to switch the foreground colors to the black now. I don't want the green, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take away all the green so it just leaves the tulips itself. Again, what's really nice about this is that you're not destroying the tulips. You're actually working on the mask. Now I'm going to try to get that corner there, and since it's like at the line, I'm going to actually add square brushes by going up to my brush palette here, and I'm going to click on this little triangle and choose square brushes. I'm going to have it append, add to the, what append means add to the existing. Choose a brush, and then I'm just going to come down and click. There we go. Now it makes it more of an interesting look when you have just the top of those two tulips above everything else. So instead of being cut off. So it makes it look a little more interesting. So this is a typical situation when you're working with a layer mask. Let's take a look at another way of working with a layer mask. Let me open up this other image. We're going to eventually come back to this start one. And let me hide a couple of these things right now. I'm going to bring the dessert layer. Oops, make sure you have the dessert layer selected. I'm going to bring it down here to the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and hide portion of this dessert plate. I'm going to automatically go in, and so down in the bottom left hand corner I want it to basically be a solid plate, but I want it to have it transition to be transparent. So up here at the top right it's going to be transparent. So it's going to have a gradual transition. Anytime you use the words hide, erase, transparent, delete, most likely you want to use a layer mask. Because instead of erasing, if you find yourself erasing something, think about using a layer mask instead. That's the key. Think about that. So most people will go ahead and just take your eraser tool and try to erase parts of it. No, that's destructive because you're destroying part of the image. Think about using a layer mask. Now in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All. Since I don't have anything selected, notice when I reveal all, the whole mask itself goes white. All I'm going to do here is take my gradient tool. It's a painting tool. It can be any painting tool. And since it's already going black to white, I'm going to go in and start at the top right hand corner and drag to the bottom left hand corner of the plate. And you see how I have a nice transition. I can see the menu come through. I don't like as much transparency, so I'm going to come out a little bit more. And that's the best thing about with gradients. You can actually apply it and paint over it and get what you want. Let's take this pear here and let's put the pear right up here in the middle. Now what I want to do here is I want to make the inside of the pear a little bit semi-transparent while the edges are 100%. A lot of people say, well, can I change the opacity? No, because what that does is it affects the whole layer and it's going to affect every part of the pear. I only want the middle part of the pear to be semi-transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a layer mask again because I want it to be semi-transparent. I'm using that word transparent or gone or erase or delete. So I'm going to go up to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All. This time I'm going to use a paintbrush, and I'm going to use a soft edge brush because I want a feather effect in the middle so it gives me more of a transition. When you use a feathered brush, you're going to get more of a nicer gradual transition than you would with a hard edge. And I'm going to paint in black. I'm going to click a couple times. Now you can see that I can see through the middle of the pear. But that's just too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and choose a gray color from my swatch palette. And I'm going to paint over top of it. Just clicking. I'm not dragging back and forth. I'm just clicking. And that gives me a little more. I can see right through the pear and see part of the menu and part of the plate. So I just want just a typical or simple transition, a simple transparency to create a interesting effect. Most people just put the pear in there, put the plate in there, but think about adding some extra design elements, and you can do so by working with layer mask. So with layer mask, we're hiding and revealing what's on a layer. That's the key. We're hiding and revealing what's on a layer. This ends the first part of working with layer mask.